Coming live from the studio, this is All Sports with Gerardo. Thank you for watching another episode of All Sports. This is your host Gerardo. On the show today, I'm going to talk about Chase Field and my experience at Chase Field. So at the middle every month, I post a video or talk about one stadium I have went to. So stay tuned for future videos from stadiums across the US. For the month of January, I'm going to post a video where I talk about Chase Field and my experience there. For the next 30 months, I will go in order and tell you about every stadium I have been to across the US. I started the 30 months of talking about one stadium per month back in July of 2018. So this will be an ongoing trend in 2019 till I get through the next 30 months telling you about a stadium I have been to at the middle every month. When I post a video talking about a stadium I have been to, there will be two different versions. It will be a video where I talk about the stadium if I have already been there, but if it's a stadium I haven't been to yet, then I will post a video showing you the stadium. This summer, I am going to many great stadiums, so you'll have to wait and see what stadiums I'm going to visit across the US this summer. I'm not going to reveal or spoil what stadiums that's going to be yet. So to give you some background history about Chase Field is located in Phoenix, Arizona. They broke ground in November 1995 and it opened in March of 1998. Chase Field is known as the Snake Pit and the Aircraft Hangar. Since the baseball team is named after a snake, their logo looks like a snake. The previous logo that they had looked like a snake with the D, and since they used to wear the snake on their hats or on their jerseys, that's how they got the name of the stadium being known as the Snake Pit. Chase Field is also called the Aircraft Hangar because if you look up at the roof, parts of it looks like an aircraft hangar actually, especially when it opens and closes. Chase Field has a seating capacity of over 48,000 seats. This was the third baseball stadium to have a retractable roof and the first in the US to have a retractable roof and natural grass. So before Chase Field opened, so the stadium in Montreal where the Montreal Expos used to play before they turned into the Washington Nationals, that was a dome stadium. It actually did not open and it had turf grass. Also, Rogers Center up in Toronto, home of the Toronto Blue Jays, that's also another dome stadium that opens and has turf. So after Chase Field was also Chase Field open here in the US, the first stadium in the end to have natural grass instead of turf US to have a retractable roof as their field. Another reason why Chase Field has a retractable roof is because the summer months in Phoenix are very hot, so the roof is usually closed. The roof is always a game time decision of whether it's going to be open or closed, and it depends on the temperature outside. In April, when the baseball season starts, or in September when the baseball season is ending, the roof will sometimes be open if it's not very hot in Phoenix during this time of year. In Phoenix, it really just depends on the weather, so in the temperature going on throughout the baseball season, it's usually not as hot in April and September as it is during the summer months. Now in the summer months, Phoenix is located in like a desert climate, and during the day it can get over 100 degrees, and since it's sunny and clear almost every day in that's brutal outdoor conditions, that's why they had to build a roof that's just too hot and build Chase Field as an indoor stadium due to the climate in the Phoenix region. Out in center field, Chase Field also has a pool, which anyone can rent at a high cost. The pool out in center field is actually like renting a suite inside Chase Field. Usually a group of people or a party rents out the pool for a game and they get to have the pool for the entire game. And because the pool is such a high demand and it's popular inside Chase Field, it's usually booked a lot throughout the baseball season, and it's even booked for many baseball seasons or many games. So if you're looking to try to get into the pool at Chase Field, it's really impossible. And if you're trying to find a game to book to have the pool, it's really impossible to get anything really soon. You usually have to book a few months or even a few years in advance because it's just in high demand. Right now, Chase Field has natural grass, but the grass is being replaced with synthetic turf before the 2019 season. Chase Field has also hosted many different events throughout the years. The Diamondbacks won the World Series in 2001 against the Yankees, and they have only been in the league for 20 years. There's a few teams in baseball that have only been in the league for 20 or 25 years. The Rays and the Diamondbacks have been in the league for 20 years, and the Marlins and the Rockies have been in the league for 25 years. Now, believe it or not, the Rays and the Rockies throughout their years have been to the World Series once. They did not win the World Series. But looking at the Marlins and the Diamondbacks have been to the World Series and they've won it. And they've only been in the league for 20 years. The Marlins have only been in the league for 25 years. They've only been to the playoffs twice. Both of those years they made it all the way to the World Series and they won the World Series. So these four teams haven't been in the league for that long, but 2 out of the 4 have already won the World Series just by the times they've been into the postseason and making it all the way to the World Series and landing up winning it. And there's been other teams that made it into the postseason and got to the World Series and they haven't won the World Series. So it's unbelievable how some teams haven't been in the league for that long and they've already won the World Series. There's other teams that have been in the league for a long time, they haven't won the World Series, or they have a really long drought where they haven't won the World Series in many years. The Diamondbacks just had their 20th anniversary season in 2018. The Diamondbacks have also had many great players over the years, which includes Randy Johnson, Paul Goldschmidt, and many other players throughout the years as well. The Diamondbacks have also had many great teams. They've also won the National League West many times when they've gotten into the postseason as well. So the Diamondbacks has definitely been a great team, especially when they first came into the league, and they've been playing some decent baseball the last few years as well. Now, I went to Chase Field back in August of 2012. Chase Field was one of my favorite stadiums to go to. Phoenix is a nice city to go to. There's a lot of things to do there, but you definitely got to check out Chase Field. It's one of the nicest stadiums in baseball, and it's definitely worth going to see Chase Field and to experience watching a baseball game and seeing the Diamondbacks play whatever team they're playing. Chase Field is nice because it's an indoor stadium, but it also has a retractable roof that can open and close. And when you're at Chase Field, you don't have to worry about it being over 100 degrees, sunny and clear, and it being really hot because you're inside a stadium that has air conditioning, so you never have to worry about the hot temperatures or the Phoenix climate while enjoying a Diamondbacks game. Chase Field is a nice stadium. It's one of the newer stadiums in baseball as well. What I like about Chase Field is there's a lot of great places to watch the baseball game on the concourse, especially out in the outfield, but the dimensions of Chase Field are a little bit strange and different compared to other baseball stadiums. In the outfield, they got a big wall out in center field, and if you ever watch a Diamondbacks game, you'll notice that when someone hits a home run out to center field, it has to go over the yellow line to be a home run, or it needs to go and bounce off the concourse out in center field. So the center field dimensions at Chase Field are a lot different than most of the other baseball stadiums because of the way the wall is and how high the wall is, and then the concourse out in center field as well. But in center field, there's definitely a lot of great places to watch the baseball game. You can also see the pool out in center field or anywhere else in the ballpark as well. So there's a lot of great things about Chase Field, even though the dimensions out in the outfield are a bit different compared to other baseball stadiums. But overall, Chase Field's a very nice stadium, and it's definitely worth seeing. And since it's an indoor stadium, that even makes it nicer. So Chase Field's a very nice stadium, and I would highly recommend going and checking out Chase Field if you haven't been there before. Also, to give you some background history about Phoenix, Phoenix is the hottest major city in North America, and during the baseball season in the summer months, the average temperature is 99 degrees Fahrenheit, and game time temperatures are usually over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So definitely if you go out to Phoenix during the summer months, you definitely need to be prepared for temperatures being over 100 degrees, and definitely be prepared for that hot, dry climate throughout the summer. If you go out to Phoenix in the spring or the fall, it's usually a lot cooler than the summer months, and it won't be over 100 degrees Usually during that time of year, it's like in the 80s or the 90s. It can still be hot in Phoenix in the spring and the fall, but during that time of year, it's not over 100 degrees usually, and it's a little bit cooler. Even though it's still hot, it's usually in the 80s or the 90s. And if you go to Phoenix in the winter, it's definitely a lot cooler and it's not as hot as it is in the spring, summer, or fall months. Phoenix is a great city to go to. There's a lot of things to do in the Phoenix area as well. For spring training in late February and in March, this is a great time to go to Phoenix because half of the baseball teams have their spring training facilities in the Phoenix area, and the other half of the baseball teams have their spring training facilities in Florida. It's easier to visit the spring training facilities in Arizona since they're all in the Phoenix suburbs, and in Florida, the spring training facilities are all over southern Florida. So if you go to Phoenix for spring training, it's really easy to get around Phoenix. It's not that hard to go from one side of Phoenix to the other side of Phoenix. Some of the teams are like on the east side of the Phoenix city limits, and the other teams are in the west side of the Phoenix city limits. And there's also some teams pretty close to downtown Phoenix as well. So it's really easy to get around Phoenix and to visit all these different teams. Some of the big teams are also in Phoenix as well. So if you get the opportunity, go out to Phoenix for spring training because you can see some of your favorite players or your favorite teams in spring training games. And it's just definitely a great experience going and watching spring training as the players are getting ready for the regular season. So spring training is definitely a must. If you're a baseball fan, whether you go to Arizona or to Florida, they're both great places to go and watch your favorite players or your favorite teams. Also, the Arizona Fall League is an off-season league that is owned and operated by Major League Baseball during fall in Arizona. The Arizona Fall League attracts many of the top prospects in minor league baseball, so going down to Phoenix in the fall would be another great time to go to Arizona. Some of the big name prospects that could be potential stars in Major League Baseball go to Arizona for the Fall League and participate in the Arizona Fall League. So you could definitely go to the Arizona Fall League and check out these players to get an idea of who they are and how they play, to see if they're a potential star in Major League Baseball as well. So that's my experience of going to Chase Field down in Phoenix, going to see a Diamondbacks game at Chase Field. Chase Field is definitely a stadium that you got to see if you're a baseball fan, and it's definitely one of the nicest stadiums in baseball as well. So if you get the opportunity, go out to Phoenix, go out to Chase Field as well. In February, I will tell you about my experience of going to another stadium. So stay tuned in the next coming weeks as I reveal what stadium I went to and what stadium I'm going to talk about in February. So you're going to have to wait and see what stadium it is, and for me to talk about my experience of going to that stadium and giving you some background history about that stadium as well. Tune in to the next All Sports with Gerardo show. I want to say thank you to everybody that watches every episode of All Sports. Subscribe or like my pages on social media at All Sports with Gerardo. Until next time, this is Gerardo.